Welcome, everybody, to the final off-season episode of No Punt Intended for the 2025 season. Had to get you guys on the edge a little bit because next week is week 1 of the NFL season. So we're wrapping up our consensus rankings shows here at Club Fantasy. And I'm the only No Punt Intended personality that decided to show up this week because Joe hates tight ends and Ryan said an auction draft was better. But that's okay. Because I've got Austin, I've got Chris, I've got Joel, I've got our consensus rankers here with us to talk tight ends. Maybe there's some chalk, maybe there's not, but there's definitely some entertaining options here that we can get later in our drafts. So stick around and let's talk tight ends.
Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented to you by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Austin Amandolia, which means you either get an upgrade at host tonight, or depending on your perspective, they brought in the cheap labor. Who knows? I am joined by several great guests tonight who are our rankers. First up, Josh Hudson, founder of Club Fantasy. Josh, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great after that intro. That was great, Austin.
Can you tell I worked on that one, scripted it out? Yeah, no, great. We're professionals here, people. Good you're doing good that you're doing good, Josh. See, that was the extent of my hosting skills. Then all the words get tongue-tied and we just move on from there. In addition to Josh, we have Joel, the Joel Wirth, on Twitter. Joel, how's it going?
It's good. We've made it almost. We're like a week away from the actual season. Nonsense preseason's over and real football's back.
Yeah, we get to move on from the camp hype and get to the actual hype. I'm very much looking forward to it. And of course, we've got Chris Molina. Chris, how's it going tonight?
Good. I thought your intro was great. It kind of reminded me of the replacement referees from like what was like a decade ago now. It's like, well, Ryan might be getting a raise after this.
Just a raise. I love it. That's hilarious.
Yeah, the less said about that, the better.
Just kidding. Happy to be here, Austin.
There you go. Well, so it turns out we're actually not going to talk tight ends tonight either. We're going to talk first baseman for next year, get our fantasy baseball podcast going on. No, jokes aside, we're here to talk tight ends. But before we get into the tight ends tonight, first thing is make sure you like and subscribe this video. If you like my joke, of course, you're going to give the subscribe for it. But if you hate my joke, put it in the comments because we want to hear from you what you like, what you don't like from this show. But before we get to talking about our rankings, we're going to cover some quick NFL news. So first off, big news. Terry McLaurin gets paid. Did we really think this was never going to happen? 3 years, $96 million. He is paid, contract settled, playing this season for the Washington Commanders. Also, Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals agree on a reworked deal that pays him $30 million in 2025 and gets him to free agency in 2026. If you're looking out for him in those IDP leagues, it's good to know. Trey Hendrickson still with the Bengals. Adam Thielen today traded to the Minnesota Vikings. A nice little reunion, I guess, to cover those 3 games with Jordan Addison. Meanwhile, Tim Patrick was traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars so that they could continue to have subpar wide receiver talent. Jacoby Myers requested trade because as a result, Amari Cooper gets signed with the Las Vegas Raiders, another reunion. And finally, we get the Rashee Rice suspension news, formally accepted. 6-game suspension for him. He's accepted and will, in fact, miss those first 6 games of the offseason. It's reduced from what the NFL wanted, which was 10 games. The NFLPA helped advocate for that to come down to 6. Gents, any reactions to the news headlines? Josh, we'll get started with you.
The Thielen to Minnesota made sense. I mean, he's on the twilight of his career. Carolina, clear youth movement there. They really like Jalen Coker kind of playing that big slot role that Thielen was coming in for. Tim Patrick, Isaac Tesla coming in and just taking his job, basically. So Yeah, I mean, nothing else really screams like, wow, big shock. All those early drafting Rashee Rice teams in best ball, well, that sucks. Sorry for you guys. 10 games there, I think you probably only get about 60 targets out of Rashee Rice this year, if I'm being honest. So I don't know that he's going to have too much impact this season, but hey, love it for Xavier Worthy and his upside, that's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely will benefit Xavier Worthy. I love, Josh, how you decided to pick all of the randos in this one and not take the headline Jerry McLaurin, but I guess that's because there's less.
He's always going to get paid. I mean,
that is true.
That's shocking.
Any other thoughts to add to this, to the NFL news, Joel?
I think in best ball, this is very good news for Rashee Rice because we know he will be available for the playoffs, which is the important part. So it's going to require some roster manipulation because now he's basically got 3 bye weeks. You got 3 bye weeks to cover because he's going to miss 5 and 6 when there are buys. But the uncertainty before made him basically undraftable because if you knew if he wasn't going to be there for the playoffs, he's completely useless. So this is very good news for him. Yeah, the Thielen thing is more about Josh referred to it a little bit. It's to me, this is more about the Carolinas, and they have complete confidence in Jalen Coker to take over that role. Whatever you think about Leggett, I'm not a huge fan, but I heard somebody today compare him to Quentin Johnston. And that makes sense. A guy you can't really catch, but is probably going to get like 8 touchdowns. So
Austin's favorite player.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly. I love the type.
For what it's worth, I do have Leggett much higher in my rankings than Jalen Coker. I just want to preface that.
I do not. I've got Coker ahead of him. I think this is smash news for Coker. I think he's like borderline startable now.
I love borderline startable players. Those are my favorite types. Perfect. Chris, anything to add to the news?
I'll play devil's advocate about Rashee Rice. I think this is actually kind of the worst case scenario for Rashee Rice. If he gets suspended, say for 12 games, 10 games, he would appeal that, and we could see like an Ezekiel Elliott type, where it just moves on and on and on, and then all of a sudden they finalize a 6-game suspension for him next year. So everyone who drafted Rashee Rice could have got a free 16 games out of 5th, 6th, 7th round Rashee Rice. Now you're only going to get 10 games out of him, and I'm completely out. I'll take my Travis Kelce or Mr. Taylor Swift early, and no Rashee Rice for me.
Yeah, I love it. Mr. Taylor Swift, that's perfect. And I'm with you. I think in redraft, definitely I will be avoiding Rashee Rice. He'll end up probably being a waiver wire acquisition down the road. I agree with Joel's take that the best ball avenue, it becomes more favorable because if you can manage it for those first 6 games, having him in the playoffs could be really huge because that's when he should be taking off anyways. The only thing I will add is for the Jacoby Myers deal, I kind of think it's I tend to think these things end up being a little bit of a nothing burger most of the time. I'm not really concerning myself too much with it. Not going to draft him too differently. Maybe I'll let him slide a little bit more before I draft him, but he's going off the board as like a wide receiver 4 now. So what does it really matter?
His price is already cheap, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not going to hurt yourself by going that route.
He's not getting traded because no one is going to trade for a 28-year-old slot only receiver and then have to pay him a big bag that he wants. It's not going to happen. So they'll just let him go to free agency and let the market dictate. No one is going to trade for him.
This is San Francisco and Jawan Jennings. That's exactly what this is.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great way to summarize it. So as much as wide receiver news that there was in this week, we are here to talk tight ends. Now, our rankings can be found on our website at clubfantasyffl.com. We have 5 consensus rankers. Only 4 decided to show up tonight. We first have Josh Hudson here on the screen. Ryan Weiss is out this week. Our typical host for these episodes, my Mock It Like It's Hot host, decided that his fantasy draft that he has going on right now was more important than showing up to this episode, and that he couldn't possibly do a salary cap draft while managing this show. Okay, Ryan, we see the priorities there. All jokes aside, we miss Ryan. Good luck on that draft, sir. We have Chris, Joel, and myself, all 5 rankers, and we get into our consensus top 12 tight ends. Just going to be super spicy because I there's going to be a surprising name at the top. His name is Brock Bowers. I don't know if you've heard of him yet. He's the second-year tight end in Las Vegas. Brock Bowers is our number one tight end by consensus, followed by Trey McBride, George Kittle, Travis, newly engaged Kelce, Sam Laporta, Mark Andrews, David Njoku, Tucker Kraft at tight end 8, TJ Hockenson tight end 9, Evan Ingram at 10, followed by Kyle Pitts, who amazingly still makes it as a tight end 1 by consensus after all of the years of failure. And then rounding out the top 12 is Tyler Warren. So our 1, 2, 3 tight ends are all chalk and consensus. All 3 of the top 3 by consensus, we all have in our top 3 individually. There was nobody that one of us had ranked 4th, 5th that somehow still managed to make it in those top 3s. But earlier this summer, Josh was talking about something about the difference between Trey McBride and Brock Bowers and asked, based on draft cost, is Trey McBride a better value than Brock Bowers? Because Bowers is going in the first round. McBride is not going in the third round by ADP. So we're going to allow Josh to defend himself at the end of this. And we're going to start with Chris. And you're going to get to be the first one to either agree or disagree with Josh. Is Trey McBride a better value than Brock Bowers? And therefore, should he actually be our tight end 1?
I have Bowers as my tight end 1, but I totally see the argument, and I do agree that McBride is a better value than Brock Bowers. A lot of what Josh has mentioned in the offseason that I've heard or seen makes a lot of sense. McBride is in the same offense, same play caller, same QB, no new pass catchers coming to town, not named Jack Mesh, Deontay Thornton, Ashton Genty. And he only had 2 touchdowns, so there's room for positive regression. And to get him in the third round when they were basically the same, gave the same output last year, and Bowers had, I don't have it in front of me, but he had 1 million targets probably. I like McBride more so in the third round than Bowers in the first, second.
Yeah, I see the argument. Joel, what about you? Where are you at on this? Trey McBride in the third? Brock Bowers in the first.
Does Bowers go in the first? I haven't seen him been going in the first. If you're
early
talking
overall is 17th, so basically he's an early second round pick.
So as a mid second compared to McBride in the mid third, yes, I'm taking that bet. I mean, Bowers had basically a peak Kelce season without the touchdowns. He had 150 targets, 112 catches as a rookie. That's insane. He's going to be in a much better offense. It's actually going to have a secondary threat now. I mean, if you want to pass on that and just try and take a secondary option, that's cool. I respect it, but that round of value difference just doesn't cut it for me. You want to bet on Kyler Murray? Sure, cool.
Over Geno Smith.
I mean, I'm not going to be mad.
I'll take the better passing offense. I'll say that.
Well, that we think. I mean, what has Pete Carroll done in the last 5 years? Where's Chip Kelly been? I don't know. It's hard to say.
I mean, I'm
utilize the tight end, that's for sure.
In Arizona, is there an Arizona offense with Drew Petzing who can only do run game, can't do anything with the passing game, that tried to force him a touchdown and couldn't even do it by giving him the Kelce shovel pass that Andy Reid gave up on 5 years ago? Good. Yeah, that's super creativity. Love that offense. Good job. I don't get me wrong. I love McBride. I think there's a massive gap between him and Bowers. There's a massive gap between Bowers and everyone.
Massive gap. Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to be mad about the Geno Smith hype. I'm loving myself some Geno Smith this year, and if he helps Brock Bowers continue being a tight end 1, I'm fine with that. Josh, this was an earlier in the summer take for you. Are you still feeling this way about Trey McBride, that he is the better value, or has Joel convinced you that it is indeed Brock Bowers you should be going with?
Well, Joel doesn't convince me much. No offense, Joel. I'm just very stubborn with my takes.
That might be the hottest take on this show, because Joel actually convinces me.
Me too.
No, so I do want to preface this. I do personally have Brock Bowers as my tight end 1. Okay. Just when you look at projections, I have Bowers. When I scrubbed him today, I think he's only about 8 fantasy points better in my projections than Trey McBride. So it's not a crazy difference, but the argument can certainly be made that, go 17th overall versus 27th overall, wait and take McBride. You're getting very similar production in that instance, right? You can also make the argument that George Kittle might be the better value. He led fantasy football tight ends last year in points per game, right? The argument there against Kittle is that he does it all based on efficiency, and when efficiency goes, the whole thing's just going to implode. So that's why it's always better and easier when you're drafting to bet on volume. That's what you're doing with Bowers and McBride. When it comes to the last season, yes, Bowers finished as the tight end 1 overall. Trey McBride had a higher fantasy points per game than Brock Bowers last year. He had more targets per game than Brock Bowers last year. There's a lot of things that work in McBride's favor heading into 2025. Yes, Drew Petzing's offense, pretty bland. It sucks. It's not creative at all. It's terrible. I get it. The competition with Marvin Harrison is 100% there. But the argument can also be made that because he has a better option in the passing game, defenses have to respect Marvin Harrison and can pull coverage away from McBride. When you're looking at the Las Vegas Raiders, you're dropping Bowers into an offense that Chip Kelly is basically having to make almost from scratch to feature a tight end, because that's not something that he does with his offenses. His offenses center around the running game and deep shots to wide receivers. That's why everybody seems to be high on breakout potential with Dante Thornton Jr., right? So there's a lot of things that can work in McBride's favor that might work against Bowers. And I'm not saying that it's going to be some like fall off a cliff level regression for Bowers. Like he's a great talent. He showed it. They don't have any legitimate wide receiver weapons. He's going to be the number 1 option in that passing game. And Geno Smith throws the football a ton. That's what this offense is going to do. So I'm not denying that front. But when you look at, historically speaking, on a yearly basis, Kyler Murray averages more touchdowns per game than Geno Smith. So just looking at touchdown upside, that's going to lie with McBride, even though he shorted it last year. For everything that we talk about, he only had 2 touchdowns, et cetera, he only scored 1 fewer touchdown than Brock Bowers this year. So even if we get some level of positive touchdown regression from McBride, there's a good chance that he's going to score more touchdowns than Bowers this year. That offense in Las Vegas wants to run the football. Ashton Jeanty is going to score a ton of touchdowns. I don't view Connor and Benson in that same mold that I do with Jeanty.
Yeah, I think these are all fantastic points. I think the way that I will round this up is, to me, it depends a little bit on who is left on the board by the time that you are hitting that pick. If I am in the early second and Drake London and AJ Brown are still on the board, I think at that point I am more likely to take one of those guys and then get Trey McBride later, because those two go ahead of Brock Bowers by ADP. But if those 2 guys are gone, I'd rather have Brock Bowers than Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Ladd McConkey, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs. That's just me. And then for Trey McBride, if I'm there and he's staring at me, I like him more than the guys going around him in ADP. I like him a little bit more than T. Higgins, like him more than Tyreek Hill, Marion Hampton. The only question would be, do I want to take a quarterback there, go Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? So to me, it's a little bit about the opportunity cost, but I think the analysis is spot on. Before I just take this show and set it ablaze for a moment, I want to say hi to folks in the chat. Caesar, Jamie, excited to see you all. Vince, love seeing you in the chat. And by the way, Wendy, of course, we all love tight ends. Agree. Who doesn't love a good tight end? I too love a good tight end. But I have to ask the question. With Brock Bowers, is anybody here concerned about the Kyle Pitts pathway of tight end? Great as a rookie, but then year 2. We got to address it. Any concerns?
Nope.
Not to the Kyle Pitts level, no.
No.
I think I feel like what people are really forgetting when it comes to Kyle Pitts, he was looked at kind of in the same way as Anthony Richardson, right? It was, he's an athletic unicorn. He's this, he's that. When you look at his college production, though, just like Richardson, he had one good year. And I use good year for Richardson very loosely because it was a pretty average season. But he put together one full season. That's really all Kyle Pitts had. He had one good season. Athletically speaking, he was a great tight end. Bowers came in as a freshman and lit the SEC on fire for multiple seasons. This is the true unicorn at the tight end position. I don't have any issues with Bowers coming back down to earth the way that Kyle Pitts did and basically has since then. Bowers is fine.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Clearly nobody caught the jest in my question. I got no laughs on that. So hopefully somebody laughed at home at my joke about Kyle Pitts. But totally agree. The Brock Bowers situation is going to continue to be good. I don't worry about him regressing. If he does regress, it's going to be like tight end 3, and it's probably because Trey McBride scores more touchdowns this year and like Travis Kelce bounces back, right? Like it's not going to be falling off a cliff the way Kyle Pitts did. I would be shocked if it was. But we do have some weird outliers in our top 12 consensus. And we have to start with Joel, because apparently Joel is continuing to play into the stereotype of having no idea what's going on in pop culture. And so he doesn't know that Travis Kelce is about to have a light year season, because this man is on top of the world with his recent engagement to none other than best pop star in the world, Taylor Swift. Joel has Travis Kelce at tight end 11. Joel, defend yourself.
I don't care that he's engaged. Good, happy for you. I don't care. I don't think that has anything to do with him. He had 7 games last year with fewer than 8 fantasy points. That he was barely startable. That's atrocious.
As the tight end 5. Wasn't he the tight end 5 last year?
he's 35 years old. I'm fine. I still got him as a tight end 1, because that's what tight ends do. But he is a typical tight end now. He is a typical tight end now. He is going to have games where he just disappears. He is not the Travis Kelce of 3 years ago. Sorry.
You have rookie tight ends, Warren and Loveland above him.
Yeah, because they're 22, not 35.
This is a dynasty.
Jesus, man.
So cool. Good luck. Enjoy your 2.5 fantasy points in week 2. Good luck.
All right. Anybody got a counterpoint?
I have many.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. So
let's go, Chris.
Travis Kelce still had 97 receptions last year as a 35-year-old tight end who, and if we're buying into the narrative that the Chiefs are coming back with a vengeance this year after getting embarrassed in the Super Bowl, Travis Kelce is one of them. Rashee Rice is missing 6 games. When Rashee Rice was out last year, Kelce was actually on pace for 158 targets, 116 receptions, and 4 touchdowns. When Rashee Rice was doing his thing in those first 3 weeks, that was a 68-45, 391 split. So Travis Kelce's in a ball out in those first 6 weeks. He's probably going to post more fantasy points than Warren and Loveland combined in those 6 weeks.
I'm holding up 3 fingers. That's the number of touchdowns Travis Kelce scored last year.
And he was still the tight end.
It's a little rich to say he was on pace for 4 when
McBride had 2 touchdowns last year and was the tight end 2. What are we talking about here?
And
Bowers had 5, right?
Okay, yeah, but he also had 150 targets.
I mean, you have TJ Hockenson as tight end 4, and Homeboy scored 0 touchdowns last year. So please, let's continue this conversation.
And those are completely analogous circumstances.
He averages not even 5 touchdowns a season. TJ Hockenson does.
Okay.
So you're basically saying that a volume-based tight end is a top 5 tight end. What the fuck is Travis Kelce? He's a volume-based tight end. Like, unless he falls to like 70 targets, there is no way on God's green earth he finishes as the tight end 11.
I've got him at tight end 11. He's still a tight end.
That's my point.
I'm saying he's a typical tight end. He's not special.
If it was like 6, 7, 8, 9, I'm like, we'll just move right along. But 11, you're basically leaving him for dead.
Yeah, 11. You're basically like, oh, I'm going to drop him on week 3 whenever, or my bye week to pick up another tight end, and then he's going to sit on the waivers the rest of the year.
Okay.
I love you, Joel. I've never disagreed with you more.
Tight end 11, and I'm history's greatest monster.
Accurate.
Look, I had to take my lumps when I had Baker Mayfield out close to the top 20. You can take yours on Travis Kelce.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I'm obviously not a Taylor Swift fan. I think she's a terrific person. I'm not a fan of her music, but I don't care if he's engaged. It's all good.
I'll move him up 3 spots to tight end 1 just for engagement alone.
Tight end 3 now.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I don't know if Joel's worst crime was having Travis Kelce at tight end 11 or having Kyle Pitts at tight end 24. It's clearly actually Travis Kelce at tight end 11. None of us agree with it except for Joel. But I do want to get your thoughts on Kyle Pitts Sr. at tight end 24, because the rest of us at least have him either in our top 12 or around our top 12. But you have way more soured on him compared to the rest of us. So this, I don't want you to explain yourself necessarily the way I needed you to explain Travis Kelce at tight end 11, but I do want to hear your thinking here on this one, because I think it could be that you're just more less of a coward than the rest of us.
What well are we going back to on Kyle Pitts?
Michael Penix.
What is there? I love this offense as much as anyone, but I think that leads to Drake London being a top 5 receiver and Bijan Robinson having a monster season. I don't think that is anything. It doesn't mean that Ray McLeod or Kadarius Hodge are going to have great seasons. So why do we think Kyle Pitts is going to have a great season?
Does Darnell Mooney?
What has he ever done to make you think that he can be a top 12 tight end?
Well, the first season.
I mean, at this point, he's Dalton Kincaid, right? He still sees targets.
He's Noah Fant. Come on. He's Noah Fant.
Noah Fant.
Yes, he is. So. Oh, I hate Noah Fant with all my entire soul. So he's a little bit better than Noah Fant. But what's the difference between him and Noah Fant?
Volume.
What has he ever done to make you think that he can be a top 12 tight end?
He's finished as a top 12 tight end.
Okay. Again, have fun. Good luck with that.
I boil it down to this. The way that Michael Penix has talked this offseason about wanting to get Kyle Pitts the football more, trying to build rapport with him, the Darnell Mooney injury, younger receivers behind those, London and Darnell Mooney, it seems like Penix kind of wants to get him the football more because he sees value in what Kyle Pitts brings. I will sit here and not defend Kyle Pitts in just the sense that, I don't think he's some worldly special talent that deserved to be the number 4 overall pick. I think that was just Arthur Smith being Arthur Smith and having way too much voice in that Falcons draft room. But he just, for whatever reason, what he does well, offensive coordinators don't seem to find ways to get him the football. Like they split him out as a wide receiver when he doesn't run and move the way that wide receivers do. Like you need to put him on linebackers and slot corners and not outside receivers. That's how you take advantage of the mismatches that Kyle Pitts can bring to the table. So, not having a healthy Darnell Mooney to start the season, maybe he's slow to ramp up. That's an opportunity for Zach Robinson in this offense to utilize a bigger body like a Kyle Pitts out of the slot. Now, again, maybe it's wishful thinking. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, I think I have some like magic code to unlock Kyle Pitts because I'm not an offensive coordinator. But at the end of the day, he does still see targets and he has been seeing them. It's just a matter of, is a quarterback going to be on the same page with him so that they can actually complete the passes? And what I'm seeing in this offseason and all of the talk from Penix, he wants to get Kyle Pitts the football. So I'm okay buying into that narrative for right now.
And I will come to your defense. Oh, go ahead.
Go for it, Chris.
I was going to say, I will come to your defense a little bit here, Joel. This is not Mr. Taylor Swift that you're disrespecting. But between tight end 12, where I have Kyle Pitts now, and tight end 24, separated by 27 points. So maybe, like Austin said, I'm just a little bit chicken to move him down my rankings. And you're totally out on him, and I respect that. So that's what I will say about the situation.
I will say I am just proud of us for the amount of vigor and heat that we brought to the tight end conversation. This show that typically hates tight ends is so passionate about where Travis Kelce and Kyle Pitts are ranked. That feels like growth for us. See, men can grow. I believe in us. Next, we're not letting everybody off the hook here. We're letting Josh off the hook somehow. I don't know how he managed to get
I didn't even make the show sheet. I love it.
But Chris also gets involved here because Chris has TJ Hockenson at tight end 16, which, for reference, the rest of us, except for Josh, have him in the top 10. So, Chris, way lower on TJ Hockenson than the rest of us. This one I will ask you to explain yourself. A little bit with less heat than the Travis Kelce one, but do explain yourself.
I feel like if Joel comes after me here, I deserve it, so I get it. TJ Hockenson was a tough rank, especially with Addison's suspension, but then they come bring in Adam Thielen to soak up those targets. I just think TJ Hawkinson's not the touchdown guy that we're looking for someone who's not going to have, in my opinion, 100 plus targets. So he falls in that range with, Dallas Goedert, Dalton Kincaid, Zach Ertz, where, someone's going to soak up 60, 70 targets, 800, 900 yards, and I only have him for 3 touchdowns. He's a bit of an enigma, especially with JJ McCarthy starting. It's tough rank. I will say I don't have a strong opinion on him other than I'm typically avoiding him in drafts.
That's fair. I agree. I like you naming that he's a tough rank because I also found him to be a tough rank in general. I felt like I could have put him anywhere between tight end 6 and tight end 10 fairly reasonably. And so if you're a little bit lower on him, I could see easily moving him down further. But Josh, Joel, what counter arguments do you have about TJ Hockenson, especially Joel, because
I was going to say, let Joel go because I'm kind of in between Joel and Chris on Hockenson. So
you are, because Joel has Hockenson at tight end 4. That is Travis Kelce love that we're seeing there.
All right, so here's the pitch. He's got a first-year quarterback, not a rookie, but a first-year quarterback. What's the narrative about first-year quarterbacks? They like their tight ends. He ran exceptionally cold with touchdowns last year. Yes, he scored 0. But based on his production, he should have had about 4. Based on his career production and typical production volume and yardage, he should have had about 4 touchdowns. Sam Darnold doesn't throw to tight ends. He's a chuck it and duck it guy. He doesn't throw to tight ends. McCarthy will. McCarthy targeted Colston Loveland. He was one of his most hyped. Like, he had basically 3 guys at Michigan in his last season there that had like 45 targets. They were all at the same level. So he will throw to the tight end more. Jordan Addison's 3-game suspension means he's going to miss games against the Falcons and the Bengals, 2 of the elite matchups that anyone will face this year. Hockenson will be the default de facto wide receiver 2 in that offense. And if you go back to 2022 and 2023, when Hockenson was approaching dynasty target or tight end 1 status, those 2 seasons, he scored 170 half PPR fantasy points. You know who else scored 170 half PPR fantasy points in each of those 2 seasons? George Kittle, who goes 4 rounds earlier than Hockenson, at least 4 rounds earlier than Hockenson does. So I've got Kittle ahead of Hockenson, but I think they should be ranked neck and neck, basically.
I love it. I will just say TJ Hockenson, who should have scored 4 touchdowns last year, makes it as tight end 4. But Travis Kelce, who only scored 3 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, but he only played 12 games.
11.
He only played 12 games.
But he only has
coming off an ACL injury.
It's cool. I'm here to make the jokes happen and to keep the heat going. Josh, you are in the middle here. Anything to add on the TJ?
Yeah, I'll make this really quick. Basically, Hawkinson's a volume tight end. That's what it is. Like, he's going to be a guy that will, kind of sit between 85. Maybe he gets to 100 targets. We've seen it before. The big question is, what is JJ McCarthy? We don't know what he is at the NFL level. So is he going to come in and throw 35 touchdowns the way that Sam Darnold did last year? Is he going to throw 600 plus times the way that Kirk Cousins did? in this Minnesota offense, or is he going to be somewhere in the middle or even on the bottom of this chain, right? Those are the questions that we just don't know with McCarthy. I think that the narrative of young quarterbacks liking tight ends is very overblown, and I really want to do a study next offseason to figure this out, because I feel like every time we think it works, it doesn't. I don't know that Hockenson is really going to be that viable. If we're talking about 3 games where he doesn't have Jordan Addison, what are we talking? 24 targets? Maybe he's an 8 target per game guy. You put Addison next to Justin Jefferson, you have Aaron Jones out of the backfield as a safety valve. I don't think you're getting an 8-9 target per game TJ Hockenson that we've seen in the past. I think it's more 5.5, 6 targets per game guy. And unless he's scoring 6 or 7 touchdowns, that's just not going to be a top 5 tight end for me. Yeah, because he's not efficient at all. He's not an 11 yards per reception guy. For his career, I think he's at 10.6.
Yeah, I think those are great points, Josh. I do feel a little bit more optimistic, but I think the reason he's only tight end 6 for me is because of the lack of certainty with what JJ McCarthy is going to be. So I feel you there. Plus, don't forget, they just traded for Adam Thielen. More target competition right there. Now, we are a show of the people, so we love to answer listener questions whenever they get thrown in there, even when I feel like they are low-key an attack on the host. We're out here trying to slander Kyle Pitts' name. I see. It is my favorite team, even though I am a little bit skeptical of Kyle Pitts for fantasy, but we still ask the questions. So, gents, any thoughts on this first one? Does Juwan Johnson outscore Kyle Pitts this season? I think the answer is no. What I want to know is anybody willing to say yes?
Well, there's Hove. I haven't seen him since they named Spencer Rattler the Saints starting quarterback.
Come on.
Spencer Rattler being the Saints starting quarterback should answer that question for us.
Any disagreement?
Juwan Johnson couldn't outscore Kyle Pitts last year.
Cool.
Does it matter?
Well,
that's my point. Like, Juwan Johnson's situation didn't get any better. He didn't get any better. Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
You know.
If you're relying on either one of those guys as your tight end, you're in trouble.
Unless it's
I agree with that. I won't draft Kyle Pitts. Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I agree, though. You probably don't want to rely on either one of these unless you're just playing the stream game. Next, could Jatavian Sanders outscore Kelce? Now, this is where I think Hoove is just trying to troll me. But again, I'm a show of the people. I will answer the question. I will fancy it. I'll consider it. I've considered it. No. Anybody else have a yes to this?
I mean, he's been on the Jatavian Sanders train all offseason, so.
To his credit, Sanders has had a good camp, and they did get rid of Thielen, which opens up some targets. Again, I still think it's Coker more than anything is the beneficiary, but I still think it's unlikely. Let's go with Kelce.
Yeah, I mean, the one way he could is if Travis Kelce retires tomorrow.
Even then, it's a toss-up.
Kelsey's still going to see 100 targets. I don't even know that there's an alternate reality out there that Jatavian Sanders sees anything close to that.
Well, retiring tomorrow.
Yeah, Kelce had 133 last year. I don't see it coming down.
I mean, literally tomorrow. I mean, he pulls an Andrew Luck and doesn't play the season. Like, that is the only scenario. Josh is like, nope, Jatavian Sanders scored negative points, and Travis Kelce still outscores him.
Dude, he's a trophy husband now. He needs to make that cash.
Yeah. Got to pay for that ring.
If he doesn't want to have to sign a prenup, he's going to have to make some money. So, yeah, he's not retired.
He's signing a prenup. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, no, nobody's touching those masters anymore. If you know, you know on that one. Also, Vince just out here saying, talk about Thomas Fidone II now, please. Josh, I don't even think you know who Thomas Fidone is, but thankfully,
first off, I do. Thank you. He does.
It was the look on your face. I was like, but I will happily. Yes, I will happily talk about this because what college did Thomas Fidone come from, Josh?
Nebraska.
University of Nebraska. Go Big Red. Yes, I somehow end up being a Nebraska Cornhuskers fan by marriage. So I watched a ton of Thomas Fidone over like the past 5 years. Stud for Nebraska. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's been a rough time, but Thomas Fidone has been like the bright spot for the Cornhuskers. Love the guy. He's going to be a great stud for the Giants. I don't think he's going to ever be fantasy relevant. Great blocker, and he just always would get like a super cool catch downfield because he got a nice block for a first down, and then they rewarded him because that's the culture in Nebraska. I think he's going to be more of a blocking tight end, but love the guy. And if he ends up being something big, I'm super here for it. Last thing, just have to shout out Millie Mills with the rise up. Yes, love the Falcons love in here. I'm very here for it, and I agree. We need to stop the Kyle Pitts hate. Okay, enough of all of that. We're going to move on to our next question before we get into our tight ends 13 through 24, which is imagining the tight end premium scoring, which if you are new to fantasy football, tight end premium is essentially adding additional points to the reception that tight ends get. The idea behind it is to try and make the tight end position more relevant by enabling them to score more points. So if you're in a full PPR league, tight ends could get a full 1.5 for a reception instead of just the 1 point that receivers and running backs get. If it's in a half PPR league, again, you could add a half point, so that they get a full point, whereas running backs and receivers get a half point. Some leagues go a little bit even extra with it, giving a full extra point to the tight end so they could score 2 points in full PPR leagues for every reception, and so on and so forth. So the question here is, what tight end are you moving up or down in your rankings the most if this were tight end premium scoring? I feel like I've started with Josh. I feel like I've started with Chris. We're going to go to Joel on this one. Joel, get us started on this one. Who would you be moving up the most?
In a full point tight end premium, Brock Bowers should go with the elite quarterbacks. He should be in a tier he should be like a top 5 draft pick with the elite quarterbacks. He's that much more valuable than any tight end. He's that much more valuable relative to the position.
Yep. And I think I'm going to come over to Chris.
And McBride should be right there with him. He should go where Chase and Jefferson go.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense to me. I'm going to say a point on this in a minute, but Chris, I'm going to come to you because you have some notes in here that are very, I think, similar in essence to what Joel is getting at by having Bowers and McBride be the ones getting lifted up. So Chris, who would it be for you, but also talk about tight end premium in general?
I think in a tight end premium league, that's the only way Hockenson will crack the top 5 here. With being a volume tight end that doesn't score touchdowns, those are the ones you want to pump up in your rankings. The ones like Sam Laporta, Mark Andrews, lower volume guys, but rely on 8 to 12 touchdowns to return on value. Those are the ones that are going to go down. I did a thought experiment in my head, and it should add 20 to 30 points relative to the someone like Hockenson, his upside, versus someone like Laporta or Mark Andrews. But ultimately, my tight end premium strategy doesn't change. Even at 1.5 or 2 points per reception, I would still try and take a tight end early. But if not, wait for the very end of the draft. They're just going to score the same relative to the other positions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where I was going to take this. Ryan and I talk about this all the time on the mock draft show. Tight end premium, it doesn't actually solve the tight end problem most of the time. It doesn't balance the position by any means. It just makes the elite tight ends that much more elite, that much more valuable. And so you'll see guys like Brock Bowers, Trey McBride become even more valuable in those leagues. And I think, Chris, like the way you framed it is a really helpful way to be maybe a little bit more of a moderated thought about it than what Ryan and I often preach, that it's not really that big of a deal. But thinking about it in terms of who are the volume tight ends, and TJ Hockenson being a more of a volume tight end as opposed to a touchdown reliant tight end does mean that he probably gets a boost in this. But overall, it's probably a modest boost, if anything. But Josh, you have a name who we have ranked as our consensus tight end 7 that it makes sense when I think about it, but I was surprised to see it when I first saw it. So Josh, tell us about David Njoku.
Yeah. I mean, just look at what he was generating with Joe Flacco 2 years ago when Flacco, went on that magical run, led Cleveland to the postseason. I'm very down on Flacco. He's an old 40. He looked old and washed last year with the Colts. But I think that there's going to be some level of, familiarity there when you're looking at no one else really in that wide receiver room was there when Flacco was there the last. I think Jerry Jeudy is an absolutely overrated wide receiver one. I think he got outplayed by Cedric Tillman last year. And really the only reason that Jeudy popped was because Tillman was on IR with a concussion. But Njoku is the familiar face, and he's been a big play tight end for the better part of his career in Cleveland. Now you juice him up with additional targets. I think there's a good chance that he leads this team in target share, which ultimately is going to benefit him from a floor perspective. When I bump up my projections to a tight end premium setting, he jumps from 7 to 5 for me.
Yeah, I love it.
He's one of the few that actually takes like a legitimate jump.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think David Njoku is one that takes a nice jump. For me, I'm still looking at those kind of top 2 to 3 tight ends in the tight end premium format. But if I miss on them, getting David Njoku as a consolation prize isn't.
Yeah, Joel's 100% correct. And same with Chris. Like tight end premium doesn't do anything except for the big dogs. That's really what it is. Like it vaults Bowers and McBride to first round picks. You can make the case that, it helps Kittle a little bit, but he doesn't catch near the volume that those guys do. He doesn't see the target share. It's gonna prop up Evan Ingram, TJ Hockenson, David Njoku, guys that are volume based.
What tight end premium does is it allows you to put a second elite tight end on your roster because you can play them in the flex, right? It does nothing for the Dalton Kincaids and Dallas Goederts of the world. They're still useless, right? And they take a hit because they take a hit relative to the top tight end. So it lets you roster a second one. That's all it really does.
Yeah, I love it. Now I see a question in the chat, but we're gonna do something before that. But I do also just Millie playing to the host again. Yes, Nebraska does indeed have Patrick Mahomes Jr. Mr. Dylan Raiola literally trains with Patrick Mahomes. And I got to say, if you want an entertaining side-by-side, you should check out the videos of Patrick Mahomes and Dylan Raiola because the routines are uncanny. It's very similar vibes. But before we get to a couple of chat questions, really primarily one that is, or two that are related, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, especially if you love all of my good jokes tonight. Throw comments under the video telling us how much you think it is ridiculous that Joel doesn't like Taylor Swift or think that Travis Kelce would be a top 5 tight end.
Not like Taylor Swift.
I got to get people riled up, Joel. Okay, just give us those comments. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Also, you can come join our Discord, but primarily, Josh, we need to hear about WAF.
Yeah, today is the final day for our signed Nico Collins jersey. We're raffling one off, $5 per raffle ticket. All the proceeds of the ticket sales go towards support of our WAF Galvanize Scholarship Fund. We get an opportunity to work with Laura Oakman and Galvanize to help out a bunch of great women that want to pursue careers in sports media and being able to provide support as they attend seminars and different boot camps for additional training. It's just a great opportunity for us. So buy some raffle tickets and get a shot at winning some signed memorabilia. Today's the last day for that. We will be raffling it off during tomorrow night's Mock Girl Summer. You can catch that here on the Club Fantasy YouTube channel, as well as the Women of Fantasy Football YouTube channel, with special guest Dr. Kevin Murray from Football Guys, Mr. Commissioner himself. So that should be a lot of fun. And then next Tuesday, we'll be announcing the next raffle giveaway. We're keeping the theme of the gods and goddesses. And I like to think that he would be an absolute legend in the NFL had he not ended his career prematurely. So just a little hint on what jersey we'll be raffling off on Tuesday, day after Labor Day. So stay tuned. Make sure you're following Women of Fantasy Football on all the socials at women_of_FF. Of course, if you're following us at Club Fantasy FFL, we'll be sharing all that stuff as well. So
get those raffle tickets in for that signed jersey and be on the lookout for more to come.
Womenoffantasyfootball.com. If I didn't say it, that's where you can buy your tickets.
Yes. Very important. Okay, we're going to get into a chat question, then we're going to talk tight ends 13 through 24. And y'all, we're going to talk for tight ends for more than an hour. I'm so excited about that. Look at us going. Who've asked, what is Elijah Arroyo's upside in year one? And he also asked where we are ranked on Elijah Arroyo and who is the highest on him. So I would say Arroyo is our tight end 29. So we are super high on him. He broke our top 30, which means that if you play in a 3 tight end league, you will be starting him. But I don't know that league exists. Josh is actually the highest on Arroyo at tight end 21, followed by myself at tight end 26, Ryan, who has him at tight end 29, and then we've got Joel with him at top 30, and then Chris is not going to be starting him if you need a if you need 30 tight ends in your league, because he has him at tight end 33. So Elijah Arroyo's upside year one. I say we start with Josh on this because Josh is apparently the one among us that thinks he has at least some upside to get to 21.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if it's my Miami Hurricanes fan bias that comes into play when it comes to Elijah Arroyo, but
it is.
Part of it, honestly, I think it's a lot of the coach speak. The way they've been talking up Arroyo. They talk about how if he was healthy all season and, had more than one healthy, productive season in college, that he likely would have been a top 15 tight end. That's how much talent they believe he possesses. And honestly, I saw it at Miami. He was a big time target for Cam Ward in a lot of clutch situations. The type of offense that Clint Kubiak wants to run, it's going to be very tight end friendly. We saw the usage with Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson as a hint in New Orleans. Problem is neither of those guys are very good. Elijah Arroyo is actually a very talented tight end. So I think that there's opportunity that you could eventually see, maybe not in this season, but as years progress, as Arroyo gets more comfortable in the offense as a pro, he could be a sort of like George Kittle light, where he's used more like down the field in the seams, high yards after the catch, high yards per route run, that type of efficiency at the position. And considering the lack of wide receivers they have behind JSN and Cooper Kupp, I think there's going to be opportunity for Arroyo to be able to come in and have some spot start weeks basically for your fantasy team.
I love it. So Chris, you're the lowest on him. So what would your counterpoints be to Mr. Josh Hudson?
I don't disagree with anything long-term about Elijah Arroyo. We heard, was it Joel that said Sam Darnold doesn't target the tight end position that often? There's that. And then what is going to be left after JSN, Cooper Kupp? Sorry, I was looking at who's next comment. What's left after JSN, Cooper Kupp, and then both running backs who combined last year for over 100 targets. I guess his upside would be top 20 if he converts on, in the red zone. But I don't see anything other than like a best ball tight end 3 type of season.
Yeah, I think that's really where I'm at with him. I like his upside for a best ball setting. I think he'll have a few weeks where he he's giving you more than 0 points, which is ideal for best ball. You want players who can score points. You laugh, but the point being, like, at some point in the season, there will be more than 0 points coming from.
No, you're absolutely right.
And for those best ball players, any player that just scores you 0 points the entire season, not a good player to draft. It's a hilarious thing to say in fantasy football, but for best ball, it really matters. I do think he'll also play a role in DFS. I could see him having a big week for someone in DFS. He could be actually a cash target at some point because you just get a little $2,500 tight end to throw in there, and maybe he scores a touchdown. I like him long term. He was my 5th ranked tight end in this class, but it's hard to bet on him this year, especially because I do have some concerns for the Seattle offense. But having that top 20 upside, I think, is always appealing. Just I wouldn't be drafting him necessarily.
Well, and I think the other argument too, when was the last time Cooper Kupp was healthy for a full season?
That's fair.
Like he's going to get plenty of run,
Yeah, I think that's
the other
really
argument is can he beat out AJ Barner?
Well, considering Barner's a blocking tight end and Arroyo doesn't block, I don't think it's going to be that hard.
I don't either.
With Seattle's offense, doesn't that mean Barner's going to be on the field more?
Probably will be
on the field more.
But they're also going to run a ton of 12 personnel.
I was going to say you can't put two tight ends on the field at once. It's allowed in the rules.
But Arroyo and Barner, the routes are going to be in the same areas as Kupp and JSN because you've got two primary slot. So what does he do that those guys don't do? And Sam Darnold doesn't throw to tight ends. So what is his upside? Legitimately, if Barner scores 4 touchdowns, I think he outscores Arroyo. I think Arroyo could be a 0 this year.
I think Barner scoring 4 touchdowns is your wildest take today. So
he did last year.
And then they went and drafted Elijah Arroyo.
Exactly.
So, speaking of sleeper tight ends, because apparently we love debating these guys, let's get to our tight ends 13 through 24. This is our tight end 2 tier for all of those leagues that play 2 tight ends. I'm sure they exist. Like, does anybody play 2 tight ends? It's like 2 catcher leagues for fantasy baseball lovers. For those tight ends,
I have a couple 2 tight end leagues.
Oh, I love it. Perfect. Well, then you're going to be our expert in this case. Great. You can start Travis Kelce in your tight end 2 spot. At 13, we have Hunter Henry, followed by Colston Loveland, the Chicago Bears rookie tight end. 15, we have Dallas Goedert. The fall of Dallas Goedert. I think he was probably in our top 10 last year. Now is at 15. Jake Ferguson at tight end 16. Dalton Kincaid at 17, followed by Zach Ertz, Jonnu Smith, Chick Okonkwo, Pat Freiermuth, Mike Gesicki, Mason Taylor, rookie tight end for the New York Jets, followed by Isaiah Likely, rounding up the top 24. We're going to start with the rookie tight ends on here. So we didn't talk about Tyler Warren, who was our tight end 12. We have 2 other rookies in this tier, Colston Loveland at tight end 14 and Mason Taylor at 23. Does anybody want to make a case for these guys as any of these guys as your week 1 starter? And let the crickets begin.
Pass.
I mean, I've got Warren and Loveland both in my top 12. So yeah, I think they could both be week 1 starters.
He likes them more than Travis Kelce.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you look at just week 1,
because they're not.
I mean, really, just look at who they're playing, right? Like, Tyler Warren gets Miami at home. Considering how depleted that secondary is, even if Anthony Richardson was starting, I would be fine starting Tyler Warren there.
What? I'm not touching either of these guys.
Yeah, I'm fine with Warren, especially the way they've used him in the preseason. Loveland, who does Chicago play? Minnesota. I would probably stay away from him week 1. Mason Taylor, I don't think he's startable yet. I think he definitely needs some time. And Justin Fields really hasn't looked good in the preseason. So I would be a little more trepidatious on him. But to me, Warren is the one that I would be okay starting week 1.
I mean, if we're going to transcend week 1 and just say, would you draft these guys to be your tight end 1, the one tight end you're going to draft? Like Colston Loveland was a top 10 pick by a first-year head coach who is an offensive guru. I mean, what else do you need to see that he is going to get targeted in that offense?
Yeah, honestly, I have 0 issue with Colston Loveland. Like I would feel a little nervous if I drafted him as my tight end 1. It's kind of the same way that I look at quarterback. Like if I'm taking somebody like a Drake May, right? Like I think Drake May is going to have a big bounce back, and I think he'll end up as a top 12 quarterback. But he's a guy that if I'm taking him, I'm probably back-ending him with somebody that I think is maybe a little bit more consistent, right? So I might double tap tight end and go like Loveland and like Hunter Henry or somebody, right? Like that's kind of how I would approach some of these younger guys. But if we're just looking at from a, week 1 start, like the way that I would stream a defense or a kicker, if I'm streaming a tight end, I'm 1,000% behind Tyler Warren against the Dolphins. That secondary is god awful, and I think that Tyler Warren is going to absolutely smash in week 1. It's going to be a welcome to the NFL moment for him.
I don't know. With Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, And the fact that the Colts are going to run the ball a lot, including with Daniel Jones. Let's see how he has more than like 5 targets.
Yeah,
but I'm fine with more than Chris. Do you think they can go more than 3 for 34? Because that's what Travis Kelce did
in week one. I wouldn't even commit to that in week 1 with these two guys.
In week 2, he went 1 for 5.
I'm fine with being a year later.
So 4 catches for 39 yards in 2 weeks. You think they can do that? I think they can do that. I'll take the over.
I wouldn't.
Okay, that's fair. They are rookies. There's risk. Absolutely.
Yeah, I will say, if that is the standard, can they get 3 for 34? I think either one of these guys probably could. And taking the Travis Kelce of it aside, I would rather start Travis Kelce than those two guys, to be clear. But if the standard is, can they achieve 3 for 34? Yeah, probably both of these guys can do that in week 1. Weirdly, I'm a little bit more high on Colston Loveland, even though my ranking doesn't reflect it. And I think that's honestly reflective of where Fantasy Pros consensus ranking has been on Colston Loveland. I have Loveland at tight end 17, and I remember at the time feeling a little bit uneasy about how high I was moving him up. But I feel like I'm sort of not high enough on him. Joel has him all the way up at tight end 9. And I agree, having him in Chicago with Ben Johnson there, I really like him. So I do feel comfortable with him being my tight end 1. I feel a little uneasy with it in week 1, but I'm willing to tolerate that because I think later down the season, it will pay off.
Biggest thing I want to see with Loveland, I want to see how much of a thorn in his side Cole Kmet's going to be, because they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel. No, I mean, but again, we saw it in the preseason, right? They will use both of them in very similar routes. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a Cole Kmet lover. We all know how much I don't like Cole Kmet as a tight end in the NFL, but he's been effective when used. And now you're bringing in a good offensive play caller, being a CEO head coach, because he's got a good defensive coordinator in Dennis Allen there. So he can focus on just getting the offense going. Again, I agree wholeheartedly with everything Joel said. Draft capital's there. They want to use him. He's going to have a good season. But again, while the offense gets moving, how much will Cole Kmet be used? Because I don't know that he's just going to fall back in the sense of like a Shane Zylstra or a Brock Wright, the way that, those two operated in Detroit. Like, they have a legitimate tight end too that can be both an inline blocker and a quality receiving option.
I just want the record to show that Josh Hudson just called a Cole Kmet a legitimate tight end.
I've never said he's not a legitimate tight end. My hate for him has always just been fantasy related.
No, that's totally fair. I do think that's a good thing to point out with Colston Loveland, and it's why, to me, there's some uncertainty there in week 1, but I do think he will, throughout this course of the season, take over that role in full. Now, speaking of weird tight end rooms where you have 2 maybe relevant tight ends, the Pittsburgh Steelers really threw us for a loop with their tight end situation. They did the Arthur Smith special. They brought in Jonnu Smith, and they now have both Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, who we have ranked very closely together at tight end 19 and 21. So the question here is, can both of them be fantasy relevant this year? Chris, let's start with you.
I believe they can, and I like Pat Freiermuth more so than Jonnu Smith here, just because he's been in the system for a while. And who's their wide receiver 2?
Your guess is
Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson might be their wide receiver 2, but he's probably going to be the 4th or 5th target in this offense. It's going to be DK Metcalf and these 2 tight ends. That's who's gonna lead the pass catchers. And with the amount that I think they're going to throw the ball, I think they both can finish in the top 20 and have their alternating weeks as like good fantasy options.
Josh, what do you think?
I have Jonnu higher. I think he proves to be more of the volume tight end, whereas I think that Pat Freiermuth is more of the red zone tight end. So I think he ends up scoring more touchdowns, which ultimately is why I have Jonnu Where do I have Jonnu rated? I have Jonnu at 13 and Freiermuth at 23. But they're only separated by 20 fantasy, not even 20 fantasy points for me.
I have the Muth at tight end 9. I'm all in on the Muth.
I had him top 10 prior to the Jonnu Smith trade. I'm not going to lie.
I think I had him like at 6 or 7 before that. So he's number 9 right now.
Joel, what do you think? Are both of these guys going to be fantasy relevant this year?
I want nothing to do with either one.
This is your Rodgers hate.
In 16, no, this is not Rodgers hate. This is Rodgers fact. In 16 years as a starter, he has carried 2 relevant fantasy tight end seasons. One was Jermichael Finley in 2011, which was the highest or second highest at the time scoring offense in the history of the league. So he was carried along by that offense. 2 was a completely rando touchdown season from Robert Tonyan, what was never close to being repeated and happened in a season where Devontae Adams missed 3 or 4 games. Aaron Rodgers does not support fantasy tight ends ever. It's zero.
I think the biggest thing that you're overlooking with this is that Arthur Smith is going to run so much 12 and 13 personnel. He's not going to have a choice but to target tight ends.
But he can split it between 4 of them, and none of them can be relevant.
My question.
I don't disagree with that, but Smith and Freiermuth are going to be the 2 that float to the top of that tight end room.
You don't think Hayward and Washington are going to get targets in that offense?
No,
I
yes,
do.
No,
yes, they are.
They might be lucky 20. To see 12 targets all season.
My question for you, Joel, is you have DK Metcalf.
If they get 30 targets, how are you splitting that? How are you splitting it? How do Jonnu and Freiermuth become startable, usable if they get 30 targets each between Hayward and Washington?
They're not getting 30 targets each. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
20. If they get 20,
they're not getting 20 each.
Yeah, they are.
All right.
I would bet on the over.
Joel, you have DK Metcalf at wide receiver 34, and you're saying stay away from both of these tight ends.
I'm staying away from the entire offense.
Is Jalen Warren like your top 5, like a top 5 running back for you?
He's not top 5, but I think this offense is going to be
Someone's got to catch passes.
Was Alan Lazard ever relevant? These guys will get some volume, but none of them, it's going to be so dispersed that none of them will be startable or usable in fantasy.
Yeah, I tend to be with Joel on this for different reasons, and it's primarily that it is almost impossible to have 2 fantasy relevant tight ends from the same team. It is almost never happened. The only time that it sort of happened was one random Philadelphia Eagle year with both Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, and since then it's not really been a thing. It's hard for 2 tight ends to be.
Hernandez.
What about Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts?
They weren't fantasy relevant.
Kyle Pitts was a top 12, right? Am I mistaken?
What was Jonnu Smith though?
I'm pretty sure he was top 20 because he had more targets.
That's not fantasy relevant.
If you give me a minute to vet this, I will.
The question is, can they both be fantasy relevant? And if they are not both finishing in the top 12, they are not both fantasy relevant.
What year was that? 23?
I think it was 2022.
It's 2 years ago. It was 23, yeah.
Okay, 2023. All right, I'll look it up. Give me a second.
So you add that to the fact that
Pitts was 12 and Jonnu was 16.
There you go. Not fantasy relevant. One of them can be fantasy relevant. They're not both going to be fantasy relevant.
We're saying they're not fantasy relevant, but we're saying Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, who most of us have in that same range, are going to be fantasy relevant.
Well, that's where I got you picked because I don't have them in that same range.
I don't either, but I think our consensus has them in that range.
But here's the thing, though: 12 and 16. While that's let's be honest here. If you're not a top 6 tight end, you're not fantasy relevant, right? That's just the long and short of it. But that doesn't mean that those guys weren't streamable in most weeks. If we're talking about 13 through 24, these guys can be streamed in fantasy football. So they're going to have weeks where you can stream them.
That is a very different question than are they fantasy relevant. But I do think they can be streamed. I will not be streaming them because to me, you're just never going to be able to predict.
There's always going to be better options, in my opinion. I agree.
And I agree with
always.
that. So it's time to ask our favorite question that we ask every single year. Is the tight end position deep? Because every year we seem to find more tight ends that we love. So the way we're going to go about this is we're going to go through and ask who the last guy in tight end ADP is that you are comfortable with as your week 1 starter. And I am very fascinated by the answers here because I went about this a very different direction than I think everybody else did. But we're going to go with it. Josh, we're starting with you. What is the last guy by ADP you're comfortable with as your week 1 tight end?
Well, considering he's tight end 16 in my rankings, and I know he's definitely not that in overall consensus, but it's Tennessee's Chig Okonkwo. They don't have a legitimate wide receiver too. They don't have a secondary pass catching option behind Calvin Ridley. Cam Ward is going to throw the football, and I don't think people really realize how much he's going to throw the football. Those targets have to go somewhere. For everything that I said about Elijah Arroyo and what he was able to do at Miami, transfer that to Chig Okonkwo in Tennessee this year with Cam Ward at quarterback. Chig Okonkwo can ultimately be a value at tight end on draft day because there is a legitimate chance he can see 80 plus targets in 2025.
I do love that take. I think there's definitely a pathway for Tennessee to surprise some folks this year for sure. But Chris, you went a different direction on this. Who is the last guy you're willing to draft and have as your starting tight end week 1?
I mean, I kind of see where you're getting at here, because I think I would be comfortable starting one of the top 3 tight ends and nobody else. But if I miss out on one of the top 3 tight ends, I'd probably go with someone like Zach Ertz. He was the tight end 7 last year. You can get him in the 13th, 14th round. I think he's the last guy before I'm like, I'm just saving it for the very end and streaming.
Yeah, I think if you're going towards streaming game, you're punting at tight end, Zach Ertz, it's a totally fine option. Joel, what about you?
Hunter Henry is basically my escape hatch tight end. He's a tight end in a Josh McDaniels offense. His game massively took off last year once Drake May took over a quarterback. I don't like the receivers in New England, so I think he could be the de facto receiver 1 there. I like Hunter Henry a lot, and he's kind of the last of the guys that I got him tight end 12. He's kind of the last of the guys I'm okay starting.
I love it. Now, as I alluded to, I went a very different direction with this because when I think comfortable, I think like this hoodie I have on where I feel super cozy inside and I am not stressed about anything. I don't have any hemming and hawing. And for me, that's Travis Kelce. Like once I get outside of Travis Kelce, I'm not comfortable anymore. I'm like, it's a little bit shaky. Like I could talk myself into it, but before Travis Kelce, I don't have to talk myself into it. I'm just like, okay, I'm good at tight end. I don't need to stress about it. It'll work out. After that, then I have to start to convince myself. So for me, it's what Chris has in his little tagline there: tight end early or bust. I want one of those top end tight ends that I feel like have that I can reliably count on to be a potential tight end 1 every single year.
Yeah, but there's an art form to streaming. So I'm fine with going the route of bypassing the top end tight ends. Just throwing that out there.
You're right, but it's stressful. It's very, and it leads to
so it's trying to figure out a defense or a kicker, but we still freaking do it. Like, not all of us only play in dynasty leagues where there aren't defenses and kickers in 99% of them. So
I do know those leagues without defenses or kickers, but not the point of this show. The point of this show is to talk more dirty talk about tight ends. And so we're going to get into, based on draft costs, what your ideal tight end is. So we'll go around the horn again on this one. We've decided who our last tight end is that we will draft, but your ideal tight end based on your typical draft strategy is who? Josh, we'll start with you.
I mean, Joel got to the show sheet first, and he definitely took my guy. But at that point, I'm probably waiting a little bit, and I'm fine going the Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry route if I absolutely need to. And those guys get sniped, then it's Chig Okonkwo because I know he's probably not going to get sniped. Again, it just boils down to volume. We've seen Kyle Pitts earn 90+ targets. I think he's going to be an 80+ target guy this year. There's opportunity there for low-end top 12 season. Hunter Henry, we've seen him absolutely smash with Josh McDaniels. there's not a definitive second target in that Patriots offense, Hunter Henry is easily that guy for me.
Joel?
Yeah, I said Tucker Kraft, just based on where you can get him. Like in best ball, you can get him in the 10th round. And I've got him as a top 7 tight end. I said I think on an earlier show, I think the Packers are going to be top 5 in 12 personnel this year. They may be top 1 with all the injuries they're having at receiver. I think he's just a safety valve for Jordan Love. He's improving every year. Like the first year, he was really bad the first half of the season. Then you could kind of see him coming on. Last year, the receiving was there. The yak was really good, but he really kind of wasn't that great as a blocker. That's getting better. So he's just kind of slowly becoming an all-around tight end. I think he's kind of discount George Kittle. When I can get him at that price in the 10th round, I'm good with that.
He is creeping up drafts. He's creeping up. I'm just letting you know right now. Every time I think I can get him later, he gets sniped for me, and I'm like,
no, it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Especially in best ball where you get you can get him and Jordan Love in the same area, and sometimes they get to a turn and they don't come back.
Yep.
Y'all heard it here. Tucker Kraft. He's creeping up those boards.
Creeping. Luke Musgrave should be draftable too as a tight end 3.
But not Pat Freiermuth? Okay.
I have 0 Pat Freiermuth in best ball, and I'm not worried about it whatsoever. I don't have a ton of Musgrave. I have a little Musgrave. I have a ton of Kraft.
I will say best ball is the format where I would draft both Pat Freiermuth, Johnny Smith, but especially Luke Musgrave. Chris, who do you have here? Who is your perfect tight end based on draft costs and your typical draft strategy?
It's like you said, tight end earlier bust. I'm going to go with Trey McBride in the 3rd round. I am leaving all of my drafts with a tight end in the top 3 rounds unless they just get sniped from me in like the top 15. Bowers is nice in the 2nd, but to get Trey McBride after the top 24 picks, pair him with a Jamar Chase or a Bijan Robinson or a CeeDee Lamb, and your team is off to the ultimate star. That's for sure. So yeah, Trey McBride.
Yeah, and I went a similar direction for this. I went with George Kittle, who similar. If you miss out on Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, he's a little bit of a discount on them, but it's still going to have that elite upside. I probably would have gone with McBride, honestly, if Chris didn't beat me to the show sheet. If you haven't gotten a theme here over the past few weeks, it's that I'm the last one to fill out the show sheet, so I get all the last.
It at like 3 p.m. too.
Look, it'd be like that sometimes. Okay. Anyways, but either McBride or Kittle are folks that I really like there in terms of my ideal tight end and based on my overall strategy. But we have a question in the chat that I am excited to get to. We have, what is the best roster settings for 10-team leagues? Right now we have a start 9 with 2 flexes and a super flex and 5 bench. I'm going to start off by just saying whatever league settings you have fun with are the best settings for a 10-team league. But let's go around and just we'll say our favorite, because it's hard to say objectively the best, but our favorite roster settings for 10-team leagues. Joel, I feel like you're like our league setting guru here for some reason. I don't know why I just assigned that to you, but I'm going to have you start on this one because of that.
I mean, if you can only get 10 managers, then start 11 puts you basically in the same, pretty close to what a 12-team start 10 is. So yeah, I would say start the fewer managers you have, the deeper you want your roster to be, just because otherwise it just becomes who drafted the nuts, and that, that's not necessarily that fun. So you're not playing best ball. You don't necessarily you shouldn't have to draft the nuts team to win. So yeah, I would say the deeper the better. So I would say at least start 11.
I love it. Josh, what do you got?
I'm all about points. So jack everything up. 6 points per passing touchdown, -1 for interception, quarter point per carry, 2-point tight end premium. Give me all of it. I want all of it. Give me all of it. Make it fun, make it interesting. If you've got 5 bench spots, it feels like it's a 14 roster.
Yeah.
So that's only 140 players. Yeah, I mean, anything that's going to make like the top of the top the most valuable, just to, force people to like try to reach on them. And I feel like that makes offering trades a lot more interesting as well, because not everybody wants to try to like incorporate bonus structure into the trades. Okay, Nihal chimes back in. So it's start 11. So it'd be 3 wide receivers, 3 flex, one of those being super flex. So yeah, I mean, all right. So it's already deep then. All right. So 11, 10. So you're starting 110 players at that point. So yeah, I like that a lot better. But yeah, soup up the scoring, man. And bonus points all around.
Yeah, Josh loves the points. Chris, anything to add on this one?
I think they covered it. And the deeper the starting positions, the better. More chance to separate yourself from the rest of the league in a 10-team league. And I also love points.
Got it. Yeah. And so right now, the league that Nihal is working on is Start 9, asking what the Start 11 would look like. So if you have the super flex, you have 2 quarterbacks. You probably have 2 running backs, get you to 4, 3 receivers, 7. And then I guess it depends on if you're doing kickers and defense, is what I would add. You have a tight end, usually would be your 9th. Or wait, I have my fingers all off in weird ways. That would be 8 once you add the tight end. If you do defensive kickers,
they do
have defensive kickers. Okay, so you've got 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 receivers. That's 7. Tight end, kicker, defense, and then a flex. I think that's fine. I like that the way it is. And have fun with it. Whatever is going to make it the most enjoyable is kind of where I go after that.
Seems great.
And I will say, Nihal, if you're looking for folks to add to your league, you could join our Discord channel, because we have a channel in the Discord league where you can join. You can find other people's to join your league. So if you need some folks there, hit that link in the show description so you can join that Discord. Now, last question for the night, because Josh doesn't want to talk tight ends anymore. He's getting sick of this. I'm just kidding. Sort of. Are there any tight ends outside of the top 24 that you think could be a viable streamer throughout the season? I think we kind of touched on this a little bit with Elijah Arroyo. We said maybe he could be a viable streamer at times. Anyone else come to mind for you all? Let's start with Chris on this one.
I would probably look to Hoove and his deep sleeper tight ends here. I did find myself drafting a lot of Jatavian Sanders in best ball, so I'll throw him in there, see what happens.
Yeah, it could happen. Joel, what about you? Who do you got?
I mentioned Luke Musgrave. They're going to play a ton of 12 personnel. He's had a very good camp. It's all about health for him. If without Christian Watson, he's their best deep threat. So if he can stay healthy, he can be a productive tight end. I still like Isaiah Likely once he gets healthy. And I believe in Harold Fannin because I believe in Joe Flacco with Kevin Stefanski because I think he can support 2 tight ends. I mean, they're going to have to chuck the ball a lot, so they're going to have to throw a lot.
Josh, what about you?
I was going to say Fannin as well. The way that they're talking him up in camp, there's a wow.
Nope, sorry, I was on a delay. Okay, you're good.
I think it's back. All right. No, the way that they're talking up Harold Fannin, I think there's a slim chance that he could actually eat into David Njoku's target share. But again, there's not really anybody too overly big in that wide receiver room, to be quite honest with you. Like that's an easy room to fade, in which case the tight ends can get very involved very quickly. I also want to mention Theo Johnson with the Giants. Outside of Malik Neighbors, I don't really think that there is a reliable sort of over-the-middle weapon. Wan'Dale Robinson's going to get you 6 yards per catch, so they need somebody that can kind of get you 10. And I think Theo Johnson can definitely be that guy. Let's also not forget that Penn State started Theo Johnson over Tyler Warren once upon a time. So I think there's some level of talent and skill there with Theo Johnson. And regardless of who's ultimately going to be the starting quarterback, whether it's Russ taking, deep shots and moon balls to Malik Neighbors or, Jackson Dart coming in there, they're going to look down the seam, and that's where Theo Johnson thrives.
I love it. Only guys I will add to this, Cade Otton, I think, injuries could spike him up. We saw him get a ton of volume down the stretch with injuries in that Tampa Bay room. And then I also, Nihal, I was going to say the exact same thing. Terrence Ferguson, I think he could be a streamer. Definitely down the stretch. He is positioned to be kind of an F-only tight end, lining up in that slot position. Could be really good for him down the road. They've been using him a lot, so I'd be keeping an eye on Ferguson. We've got a listener question to round out the show from Cruz Garcia. 10-team half PPR trade ideas to upgrade at quarterback or running back. The rosters: Brock Purdy at quarterback. Running backs are Marion Hampton and Alvin Kamara. Wide receivers: CeeDee Lamb, Brian Thomas. Tight end: George Kittle. 2 flex spots: Travis Hunter and DJ Moore. Bench is RJ Harvey, Chris Olave, Travis Etienne. I'm assuming that's not Trevor. Trey Benson, Braylon Allen, Bajal Tootin, Kyle Pitts, and Rashee Rice. Trade ideas: we're looking to upgrade at quarterback or running back. I'm going to take the question off the board here to uncover Chris and Joel. Josh, let's start with you. How are you thinking about upgrading at quarterback or running back here?
I mean, I have Purdy as the top 10 quarterback, so I don't really know how much more you want to upgrade. I mean, of course, you can always find 9 better quarterbacks, but let's see. I don't love trading any running backs just because it's such a difficult position to fill. Pitts isn't going to have any trade value, just being realistic here. I mean, and if you trade Olave, you're screwing your wide receiver depth. I mean, if I could package Purdy and DJ Moore, I think that might be the way to go. I mean, Bo Nix, maybe. I have Patrick Mahomes as a top 6 quarterback, but I know all of us are going to have different options there. I just don't know if that would be enough to get like a Joe Burrow type of quarterback.
Joel, I saw you get excited.
Yeah, Purdy and DJ Moore was going to be the package I was going to. Now, if you're not going up to a top 4 tight end, don't bother, or a top 4 quarterback, don't bother.
They're all the same after that.
Exactly. So yeah, why are you giving up anything to trade from Purdy to Burrow? It's not that big a deal. And like your running backs, like I'm the 0 RB guy, but I look at that and go, geez, I'd love to have that RB room. You've got Hampton, you've got Kamara, you've got 2 of my favorite 0 RB guys in Braylon Allen and Tootin, who are going to be startable by the end of the season. I think so. Yeah, I think your RB room is just fine.
Chris, any other thoughts to add here? How you might upgrade this team at quarterback or running back?
Quarterback's tough. I don't know what you can package without really hurting your depth to upgrade at quarterback, like they said. And if you're not doing top 4, don't worry about it. For running backs, I can see like a DJ Moore and a Harvey to upgrade to a nice Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor type running back. But so these are the kinds of trades I'd make middle of the season if I'm doing well in this league and I want to convert depth into higher end talent for I'm angling for the playoffs. At the beginning of the season, I'm probably not making these trades. I'm probably keeping the depth, hopefully not shrink together some wins, and then thinking about it in like mid-October, early November.
Yeah, that's usually how I would approach this. I mean, like I mentioned, I have Purdy as a top 10 quarterback, but there's not a ton of difference between him and my 6 or 7, right? So when you let the season play out, the rankings and the production starts to play out with it. Then you can kind of see, all right, do I have a top 10 quarterback in Purdy? Do I need to start considering, hey, what's it going to take to get up to the top 4? Now, what I will say is the hype is unreal around Amari and Hampton. It's high around RJ Harvey. If you think that any of those guys maybe don't deliver the top 10 kind of upside that a lot of people think, use that to your advantage. Move Amari and Hampton with maybe a wide receiver and see if you can get a I don't know who's a running back that I'm higher on Breece Hall, right? So like I would be fine like trading Hampton in a package for like Breece Hall plus, right? Maybe you could get Christian McCaffrey, like package Hampton and one of the receivers to get a CMC, or Derrick Henry, like a stable type of running back that you know is going to outproduce everybody. So those would be the kinds of moves that I would make, like capitalize on any sort of offseason, preseason hype, and utilize that to your advantage.
The other thing I would say real quick is if you're not comfortable with Purdy, you've got Brian Thomas, you've got Travis Hunter, play it like best ball. Go get Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
And just go for it. Like I'm going all in on Jacksonville. Go get Trevor Lawrence and just go for it.
He has Etienne too.
I was going to say, and Tootin. Like that's a very Jacksonville heavy.
Just go all in on that offense. If you're not comfortable with Purdy, they're basically they're same tier for me. So just go for it.
I'm a coward, so I would never do that in redraft, but I love it. I would look at this and say I have too many Jags on my team and I'm trading away one of them. And to that point, I was thinking a similar route as Josh was mentioning with looking at guys that are super hyped like Hampton and RJ Harvey, and looking at someone else, looking at trying to trade away like a Bashal Tootin, who's a little bit getting hype right now and getting a little bit more of a modest upgrade at running back. You're not going to get a Breece Hall with a Bashal Tootin, right? But you could get a little bit of improved depth in that space. One more question from our friend Nihal. It's been active in the chat tonight. Rate my team, 12-team half PPR. Brock Purdy, Tyler Warren, Bijan Robinson, Chase Brown, Travion Henderson, Dylan Sampson, Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy, Travis Hunter, Rome Odunze, Jordan Addison, Josh Downs, and Tyquan Thornton. Is he even still active in the NFL?
He is.
Yeah, he made the Chiefs roster.
Dante Thornton.
Oh, Dante Thornton. That's
like Tyquan
did make the Chiefs team.
Okay, but that's also good to know. But I'm gonna, let's say this is Dante Thornton, not Tyquan Thornton. Rate this team, and also as part of your answer whether you would flex Travion Henderson or Rome Odunze in week 1. Josh, I'll start with you.
I like this team. You have Travion Henderson, so you win. I'm really high on. I'm high on Henderson this year. I mean, you have a really solid top 3 running backs for a 12 team in Bijan, Chase Brown, and Travion Henderson. Not a ton of depth behind them, but you have enough wide receivers that I think you could probably make a move to upgrade on Sampson. Like I said, I have Purdy as the top 10 quarterback. Tyler Warren, I think he'll be just fine at tight end, and there's definite upside there. A lot of depth at wide receiver. Ladd, Worthy, Hunter, Odunze, Addison when he comes back, Josh Downs. I mean, they're depth pieces. I like it. It's not any sort of world-beating wide receiver room, but again, it's a 12-team, and you went heavy at running back, so that's the kind of wide receiver room that I typically fall in line with when I have heavy running back builds.
Yeah, I'm with Josh. I'm a fan of this team. I really like the pieces that you have here. Chris, Joel, any other thoughts on this team? How you're feeling about the roster?
I like it too. It's pretty balanced. Bijan and Chase Brown is nice. As you heard earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of Tyler Warren this year. He's more of the dynasty guy for me. But I think you have a lot of depth.
Yeah. Joel?
Congratulations on your championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is
and yes,
Travion for the win, baby.
Yeah, and like on your week 1 question, I prefer to flex a running back. I definitely prefer to flex Henderson over Odunze because he's a better player.
I mean, Odunze is going against Minnesota. Their secondary.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup.
Speaking of
that, Henderson's got New England's is really. They get the Raiders at home, right? They get Raiders going cross country. Yeah, that's a smash for Henderson.
But is that a Ramondre Stevenson game script? I think in terms of your question,
that's a Travion Henderson 100-yard kickoff return touchdown.
I agree. I'm team Henderson too. I was just thinking if you're trying to play a safe floor of like 3 for 50, Odunze probably will give you that. Henderson, Josh McDaniels always worries me right away with these rookie running backs. But if you're looking for upside, Henderson for sure.
Yeah, I very much with that. I'm going Henderson in my flex week 1. And that is our tight end ranking show. Who would have thought Club Fantasy FFL in the year 2025 would have been talking about tight ends for an hour and
Joe were on this show, he'd be pulling his hair out.
He probably is. He probably is. But you know what? I'm the host tonight, which means we get to talk tight ends. You can tell us in the chat whether or not you thought this was an upgrade at the host or they brought in the cheap labor for this show. I mean, given the fact we're still here talking about tight ends, I could see it leaning one way or the other for sure. For my co-host, Josh Hudson, Joel Wirth, and Chris Molina, I am Austin Amandolia. Make sure you follow Club Fantasy on all the socials at Club Fantasy FFL. Check out our website, www.clubfantasyffl.com. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Join us on the Discord, join the community. Hit that link in the description to join that. Again, comment everything you liked and didn't like about this show. And remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. We'll see you next time.